NHL trade deadline is around the corner, although it kind of feels like today with all the trades going down in the NHL, none involving any Coyotes yet, but we're going to talk all about that today. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the PHNX Coyotes Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah here with Craig, Petey. We got Danielle behind the Mac. How's everybody feeling?
Want the next 2 days to end?
Yeah, but really, like, there's so much hype about the trade deadline, and a couple of guys get moved around. There absolutely will, and teams right now are jumping up for joy for those minimal pieces that they're adding and trading. I feel bad for the players. Like for me, and it's the hype outweighs the actual, especially on those 12-hour shows that are going to be on Friday.
Oh my God, those are the worst.
Oh, how about the 24-hour show that our friends at What Chaos are doing?
Right.
Did they get the subscribers yet? Is it a thing?
They did it.
Oh my God, is it?
Mm-hmm.
DePaz must be thrilled.
Yeah, DePaz is having a very conflicting day today.
Yeah, tough trade for the Sabres.
Yeah, but I guess it's a lot less. You know, I think last year when Jacob Chikrin was on the trade block, we thought, oh my God, like I felt like I couldn't even go anywhere that I couldn't be available to do an emergency pod at any time. I don't really have that same feeling this year. Obviously, you know, I don't think the Coyotes are going to be making any too big of moves. There's some guys we'll talk about. Obviously, Jason Zucker sat out last night for trade-related reasons, but we'll talk all about the potential moves the Coyotes can make. But it is interesting. I feel like today is the day the dominoes really started to fall in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, except it was interesting talking to people around the league. The market was just quiet. You saw the Barry Trotz.
Barry Trotz.
Can we put up the Barry Trotz quote, Danielle?
Yes.
Because it really illustrates what was happening early on in the market. Can you read that?
Yes.
Because I can't.
So Barry Trotz, who of course is the GM of the Nashville Predators, said, quote, "The prices are ridiculous for what general managers are asking for players, for rentals and all that. But I'm a rookie GM. I don't know a whole lot."
Honestly, this is the situation every year. So when you see tweets like saying this GM or this team is asking for this for a player, it doesn't mean that they're going to get that for a player. This is negotiations. What do you do in negotiations? You ask for the highest price possible, and then somebody probably lowballs you, and then you meet somewhere in the middle. That's what happens. Sometimes you get a steal. Sometimes you get a first-round pick for a goaltender when everybody tells you can't. But most of the time, you know, when there's an abundance of pieces, and especially these types of pieces, the market's probably going to bear out what everybody is saying it is. So we'll get into some of that. But it's funny. The people that are buying are all saying the prices are too high. The people that are selling are all saying, yeah, nobody wants to meet these prices yet, so we're just going to wait it out. Well, you're seeing some movement finally with less than 48 hours till the deadline.
Yeah, and I think what this does, though, is when you're seeing some of these players move, I think for the Coyotes, when you start looking at that list, and there's multiple lists on who's where in this rankings, but Jason Zucker now has moved up pretty high on this list of guys that are currently available. You know, Henrique, Mantha, those names are starting to slip away.
Casey Middlestead, that was a hell of a trade.
Middlestead went today, too. So Zucker now... There's still a lot of teams that need players, and they need a guy that can bring a little spark to the lineup in the bottom six and do a lot of different things and experience in the playoffs. That may bode well for GM Bill Armstrong.
Petey, I wanted to ask you this as someone who's been in these coaches' rooms, and obviously the GMs are not sharing everything that they're doing with the coaching staff, but when a staff sees other teams adding, does it create a tension in the room. Like, hey, we got to go out and get someone now. What are we doing? Are we gonna match this team?
Yeah, for sure it does. And it depends on the communication level between the general manager and the coaching staff on where that comfortability lies. If you go, hey, and Don Maloney was honest. Don Maloney said, hey, I have very little room to work with here. I may try a few things, but this is kind of going to be your ceiling. When things changed, I think you saw it when John Chaika went after, Taylor Hall. I know that was before the trade deadline, but when after Hall, you go, wow, that's definitely a different market than we're used to seeing here in Arizona. But yeah, the frustration is, especially when you're on that 7th through 10th spot and you're really fighting for a playoffs, and you see those guys around you and they go, they got him. And they got him. And man, if we want to stay in this, we need somebody. And it's not just in the coaches room, it's in the locker room too. Like the players are starting to go, we didn't get anybody. And it's harder for a player because players want something coming in without having something go out. And coaches,
without losing their job.
Exactly. No, 100%. So they want to see that addition without the room being upset, and where coaches just want to get better. And I think this next 48 hours is interesting. Some teams got better already, and they're teams that are really at Colorado. That's interesting. Like that. Well, I know we'll get into these a little bit more, but Colorado made 2 big moves today, and it's a team that, again, not all these pieces are going to fit. Like you might say there's a good name. Oh, I really like Adam Henrique, but Adam Henrique gets into the Edmonton Oil locker room and it's not a fit. And he doesn't have a spot, and he doesn't know, gosh, I don't like playing with this guy. And that takes time. And we'll see. Some of these deals are going to be a lot better on paper than they are actually in the locker room.
Well, the Coyotes continue to be sellers, as they have been for the last few seasons. Maybe one day we'll have an emergency live show talking about a blockbuster trade coming to Arizona. But
as Danielle said, for Austin Matthews.
Yeah, I appreciate that positivity, Danielle. But let's, take some time to talk about the guys that we can see moved at this trade deadline for the Coyotes. And I think, obviously, let's start. We talked a little bit about it on the postgame show last night. But let's start with Jason Zucker, who seems to be if anyone's going to go first, it seems like he's going to be the first guy, considering he was scratched for trade-related reasons. They're not going to do that unless, there's some conversations happening. Craig, what are your thoughts on Jason Zucker?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest, and we talked about it, as you said last night. There are a bunch of teams circling around Jason Zucker, but it's hard to measure the level of interest at this point, right? You get a lot of phone calls. The GMs are calling everybody. They're doing due diligence at this time of year. How badly do they want Jason Zucker? That's really hard to say. So when we talk about there being a significant market for Jason Zucker, it seems like there is, but how strong is that market? How great is the want for Jason Zucker? It's still hard to measure that because you don't know what other plans teams are exploring. You're seeing reports today that the Coyotes want a 2nd-round pick for Jason Zucker. Going back to what I said earlier, you'll set the price high. Will they get a 2nd-round pick for Jason Zucker? If they do, they'll be thrilled. They'll be elated, and maybe they can because there's competition for him. But I'm not sure that that's the market for Jason Zucker. We'll find out.
Yeah, but again, we'll look at the names that are going in. If there's a team that had their eye on player A, whether that's Matthew, Tarasenko, Mantha, Henrique, if they said that's our guy, and all of a sudden that guy's gone, now they go, oh my gosh, that pool of players of that depth winger now is starting to shrink. Oh man, we've got to get in, or we're going to miss out on everything just because of what we said. The activity from the coaches' room, from the players' room, that the ownership has to show that we're trying to make an effort here and that we're trying to win. So I think that price. Again, you don't want to wait too long because you miss the window and then you're stuck with no assets. So you have to be very careful. Do I think Jason Zucker, if we'd have said a few weeks ago, Craig, would he possibly garner a 2nd-round pick? I probably would have said no. I'm not so sure now. I don't think it's impossible that Jason Zucker could get a 2nd-round pick. It might be a later round pick, and clearly any of these teams that are running for a cup are going to pick later. So it might be a late 2nd-round pick, but I'm not saying it's impossible. You look at 2 picks for Tarasenko, a 2nd and a 4th, and I'm not saying it's impossible.
Was it a 4th and a 3rd for Tarasenko, though?
Wasn't it a conditional? See, This is why I don't do...
So, Open the TSN trade tracker.
It's a 4th and a 3rd with a caveat. If they win the cup, it becomes a higher pick. So it's worth it if you.
Which they could actually. So
so it's a 3rd and a 4th. You're right.
Yeah,
it wasn't a 2nd.
So it makes me wonder about Jason Zucker. But anyway, Jason Zucker is going to move before the trade deadline. He's going to be gone. Obviously, they're already sitting him out. And there are plenty of teams. Somebody's going to circle back and want Jason Zucker at some point. This is not a surprise to any of us. He's on an expiring contract. He's not coming back here next season. So expect him to be gone. He may have very well played his last game because there's really only one more game before the trade deadline. And I can't imagine he's going to be in the lineup against the Minnesota Wild, even though that's one of his former teams.
Yeah, true. In 51 games with the Coyotes, he has 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points, a cap hit, $5.3 million. So we will see where the wind blows on Jason Zucker, the other guy that we kind of, even before the season began, we said, who are the pieces at the deadline? It was Zucker and Matt Dumba. Matt Dumba yet to be scratched for trade-related reasons that we know of. Who knows what could happen tomorrow, but that's been a guy that, again, since before the season started, we thought, okay, this is a guy who can move at the deadline as well. He's in a similar boat to Zucker on a 1-year deal, $3.9 million, and kind of came in similarly to some other defensemen who've come in the past and revitalized their games. I know a lot of fans have been disappointed. Coyotes fans have been a little bit disappointed with Matt Dumba this season. I think we've seen flashes of what he can be, but I think despite that, I think that his name carries some weight in the NHL, and every team needs reliable defensemen.
Amen to that. Yeah. There's a massive demand for blue liners. He's a physical guy. He can skate. He has experience. But you're right in pointing out, the inconsistencies we saw, and I think that's being reflected in the market right now. I think there are teams that are looking at Dumba and saying, yeah, he might be able to elevate his play and really help us, or he might be one of the worst guys on the ice. And
you know what's funny, Craig, though? You say that, and it's interesting that there are coaches' rooms right now around this entire league going, and I'm not specifically talking about Dumba, I'm just talking about any player that go, oh, we can fix that guy, or he'll be better with us, or he'll be better paired with this guy, or if we play him with these 2 wings, if we put him in the right spot, he's 2 there. If you put him in a 3-hole, he's going to be better. I guarantee it. I sat in a coach's room with one of our former coaches, might have the record of points in the National Hockey League. Not telling you who he is, but just and there was a player that came across the topic from the general manager. What do you think of this guy? And I tell you, every assistant coach jumped, no, we don't want that guy. We want nothing to do with that guy. And the head coach said, maybe he could work for us. Maybe we could fix him. Maybe this is the staff that can get him to go right. Ultimately, the deal didn't happen, and this player never made it to the Arizona Coyotes. But when we talk about a player like Dumba, you can sit and look, okay, he's physical. He can skate. He can defend with his stick. But sometimes he's over aggressive and makes difficult reads and can put himself in a difficult spot. We've seen that. Yep. There are coaches right now saying, we'll take those deficiencies because we're missing a guy with speed that can hit. Yep. We'll have his partner be his defensive cover, as it will. But we want a guy that can skate and hit. Well, then maybe Matt Dumba's your guy, because Matt Dumba does check a lot of boxes. Unfortunately for this team, he needed to check a lot more. And I think maybe that was the undoing of Matt Dumba in Arizona, is there was just too many things he was supposed to be responsible for doing. So there will be a team that's looking for a defenseman. I guarantee it that Matt Dumba will be across on someone's radar.
Yeah, and I do think he'll move at the deadline as well. Keep in mind, too, with both of these players that we just discussed, the Coyotes are willing to retain salary. I mean, it's almost goes without saying now in the current world with so many teams cap strapped that you might have to retain
especially
salary
in this market.
But in exchange for retaining that salary, you might be able to bump up one level, one round in picks. So that's on the table as well for both of these players.
Roaring Fork said, wasn't Leah Merrill on the trade block last year? I think Fish and Ray Whitney were possible PHNX deadline ads.
And Steve Potvin.
If you know, you know.
True story.
Yeah, if you know, you know. Another handful of guys. I think Zucker and Dumba, we can all sit here and say almost without question, those guys will not end their week in a Kachina jersey. But there's a couple other guys to keep an eye on. Again, more defensemen, because that's something teams are looking for.
On expiring contracts,
yeah. Troy Stetcher, Travis Dermott, Josh Brown.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Troy Stetcher moved last year at the deadline. The return was minimal, but Calgary did take him on. We'll see about Dermott and Josh Brown as well. They're obviously guys who are going to play in a depth role for you, maybe even guys that are in and out of the lineup for you in the playoffs, just insurance policies in case you have injuries on defense. But they can bring something. Travis Dermott, more of a puck mover. Josh Brown, obviously more of a physical presence that can play net front and do things like that. We'll see if there's any interest. Again, the return's not going to be much. And the Coyotes may opt not to move these guys if they don't get the right situation. But they are possibilities, certainly, on expiring contracts.
But one of the things, Craig, when you talk about these different defensemen, and last year, I thought Josh Brown was going to get traded a year ago, and I know we talk about his quickness, his ability to skate and get up and down the ice is not his forte, but he's a tough guy and he can defend the net front. And there are teams that don't defend like the Coyotes defend. There are teams that don't have their defensemen responsible for defending up by the defensive blue line. That they're more stay-at-home systems that maybe would fit for a Josh Brown, maybe even in a 6-7 role. And I tell you what, when you're going for a long playoff stretch, you are going to use 8, 9 defensemen. Sorry, if you're going all the way to the finals, other guys are going to play. Like they might only play for a game or two, but you need somebody that's been an NHL experienced guy. Do you want Josh Brown out there that can control the front of the net, or do you want a 19, 20-year-old kid who's never played a game in the National Hockey League in the playoffs when you're trying to win a Stanley Cup? I know who I'd want. So I was surprised he didn't go last year. I wonder about his quickness. Dermott's just kind of fell off the face of the earth lately. And I'm wondering if that's going to hurt his value with the trade deadline if they even see it. And Stetcher, it's funny with Stetcher. Last year, you weren't sure if he was going to get traded, but he's just got that motor. And
remember, he got traded literally in the final. Like we were getting, I remember because we were getting ready to go live for a trade deadline show. We were like sitting in the chairs, and he got traded. And I remember being really upset because I was like, we're gonna miss his fashion. And then he came back, so it all worked out in the end. But
yeah, so I don't know about the defense, but I think Stetcher, it's interesting. That would have to be a right fit. The one thing Stetcher has that I would look at Brown that he doesn't have is Stetcher can skate. I mean, Sketcher's very good on his feet and can get in and out of trouble. He doesn't have that size. He doesn't have that power that can put guys through the glass. But it'll be interesting. I don't know. Again, you pointed it out already, Craig. What's the return and what's the worth to this organization? Like at some point, then if you trade those players, someone else got to play. And do you want to disrupt Tucson?
Exactly.
Do you want to call guys up? Like what's the value?
You're just getting offered like a 6th or
a 6th. Like what's a 6th or 7th round pick do for this organization? Well, those guys probably not going to play.
And it's not like the Coyotes are trying to shed salary or anything like that. It's just,
I don't like Wild Lee's comment. I don't know if you see that.
Wild Lee said, "Can we trade the Mole Magician? He's been sitting on the bench for over a month. He might be on LTIR at this point.
He might be on LTIR.
We haven't seen him in a while. All right, well, still plenty to talk about regarding who potentially can go on the Coyotes. But first, when we watch this team, all of us together in person on Sunday, March 24th, when the Coyotes take on the Dallas Stars. I'm sure there'll be some guys not in the lineup that we're used to seeing, and we hope you join us at our official PHNX Coyotes takeover and pregame party. As I mentioned, Sunday the 24th. The pregame party is at 4 Peaks 8th Street Pub, and it starts at 3 p.m. You can buy tickets just for the pregame party. Those tickets include food and drink, and there's only 2 tickets left to also buy takeover tickets. So the takeover tickets include the game ticket and the pregame party. You can also just buy tickets to the pregame party if you're a season ticket holder or you don't want to go to the game or can't make the game. We would love to see everybody at 4 Peaks beforehand. It's going to be a blast. And of course, if you're a diehard, your link is in our Discord because diehards get 20% off. One of the many perks of becoming a diehard, but we're really looking forward to seeing everybody. And it should be a good game against the Dallas Stars. They're definitely a contender. So, should be an interesting one. And we're really looking forward to it. And maybe, just maybe, we'll all open prize picks together and make it a little more fun, especially if the Coyotes are on another slide at that point. Prize Picks makes it just that much more fun. And if you don't know what Prize Picks is, it's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and you can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks. Again, America's #1 fantasy sports app. So here's what you're going to do. Go to prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX for a deposit match up to $100. They are giving away money. That's prizepicks.com/PHNX and use code PHNX. Pick more, pick less. That's all you have to do. Pick more or less. It's just that easy. Prize Picks. Check it out.
And then go to Gila River Resorts and Casinos because, as we said yesterday, no one, and I mean no one, does it better. Not only do they have a state-of-the-art gaming floor, slot machines, blackjack tables, live table games, and Arizona's largest casino sports book, and they have dining that ranges from upscale to approachable. Keep your eyes open and free up your calendar during the Final Four weekend because Gila River Resorts and Casinos and PHNX will have a whole lot going on. And I mean, there's going to be watch-alongs, there's going to be parties, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. So keep your eye open for all of the things that are coming. But I talked about it last night, all the entertainment, Martina McBride, Ice Cube, Dwight Yoakam, Wiz Khalifa, Clint Black, all coming to Gila River Resorts and Casinos, a Wild Horse Pass. Head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos and let them show you what next level entertainment is all about. You do you at Gila Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for more details.
More just we knew before the show that the Alex Wenberg trade went down. He got traded from Seattle to New York, but it was for a 2nd round pick and a 4th round conditional pick. So again, as these trades come through, I think it just helps establish the market. But Alex Wenberg is
center.
Yeah, and he got a 2nd. So I don't know. I don't feel great about unless it comes down to the wire. I don't feel great about the Coyotes' ability to get anything higher than
a 3rd round
pick. Yeah, at this point.
That's kind of what I think.
This is not the trade deadline when they had a piece like Jacob Chychrun that you knew that he was going to get something high in return. It's just a very different vibe for the
Remember what Gostisbehere got?
Yeah.
3rd round pick.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we'll see. Depends on how desperate things get, how much competition there is, but I guess I'd still be surprised if they got a 2nd round pick out of this.
Yep. Well, let's continue to move down the list, and we'll go to a guy who PD's already had his heart broken.
Just no.
Nick Bjugstad, will he go again?
No.
I mean, we see the center market already. The center market is already active. There's been a bunch of moves. Teams want centers. Just like defensemen, it's a premium position. Nick Bjugstad can do a lot. I mean, he's on track for the second most productive season of his career. We know he's a matchup guy. We know he's a glue guy. There's a lot of things that Nick Bjugstad brings to a room. So I got to believe there'd be demand for him. It's just whether the Coyotes are willing to part with him. And I think it's going to take a big price for the Coyotes to say goodbye to a guy who still has another year term left on his deal. I really do. I feel like with Nick Bjugstad, I'm sorry to lump in Alex Kerfoot at this moment, but both of these players, I think the Coyotes are very happy to stick with them unless somebody comes up with a terrific package for them. Basically, you know, I hate to say it because the market's the market in the end, but overpays a little bit. Nick Bjugstad brings a lot to the table. And by the way, here's another reason you don't want to see Nick Bjugstad traded. They are expecting a baby on Friday, the trade deadline. That's the due date. You don't want to see Nick Bjugstad moved on that day.
Are you kidding me?
No. Just
see, that's the stuff you don't hear about, and you just go, really?
Yeah.
By the way, Nick, you're moving on today, but your wife's here having a baby.
She's in labor, but here's your plane ticket.
Yeah,
that's tough. That's terrible. Tough. That's the business, right? So.
Oh, my God.
Here's the bad news for Nick. He's a specialty player, and he fills needs. He plays 18 minutes a game. He kills penalties. He's a responsible defensive centerman. He can take draws. He's a big guy that understands how to defend. And you've seen him push players around. And I know he's not a fighter per se, but he sticks up for his teammates. He's going to get 15 to 20 goals this season again. Like, he fills a role, and he filled a role in Edmonton. And I again, two things. What's his return? Because he's another year older than he was last year, and I'm not sure what he brings back. And is that return worth disrupting? And I'm so sorry for his family situation. I don't mean disrupting that, but disrupting the room. And when we talk about veteran leadership with this group, Nick Bjugstad is one of those guys. Whether he puts a letter on or not, he's still one of the veteran leaders. And I don't know if you take him out of the room for what, a fifth round pick? Is that
no? They wouldn't do
it?
that. No, they wouldn't do that. Listen, listen, Nick Bjugstad's not bringing back like a first round pick on his own, but is there a package? Yep. Is there a world in which they could make that happen? Maybe so. That's what I think the Coyotes would listen to. Short of that, I really have a hard time imagining Nick Bjugstad not a Coyote next season.
I just feel like it's funny that he ended up signing here in the offseason because they already traded him. They already got Michael Kesselring and for him. So I feel like we're already reaping the benefits of trading Nick Bjugstad. Let's just not trade him again. Let's just not, especially with his family, with what he brings to the locker room, and also I think he likes it here.
He does.
So let's leave that one alone.
Yeah,
that's just me inserting my personal opinion into that conversation.
Well, the next one's even harder, and Craig already alluded to it. The Alex Kerfoot one to me when I look around.
Mute your stream right now. I'll text.
Just do this. La 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 la.
I don't hit the phones like Craig or the TSN Trade Center panel, but the people I've talked to have said that Kerfoot's not on the market. Now, whether that means anything, here's what I think with GM Bill Armstrong. I'm not speaking for him. Everybody's on the market. And it's just a matter of what that price coming back is. When you say someone's not available, that might be just, he's going to cost you a little more than what you might think. And Alex Kerfoot's one of those guys. Alex Kerfoot to me is the piece of all of the teams or all of the players on this team that could most quickly benefit a playoff team. He fills the bill and checks most of the boxes. And I really, really, really like Alex Kerfoot. I think he helps a playoff team. I think he had secondary scoring. I think he adds a little bit of bite for a guy that's not very big, but he plays incredibly hard. He goes to the net. We saw it in the power play where he was planted in front of the net. He's a smart player and he can play both sides of the puck. He's still got a motor that's fast enough to compete in this very, very fast league. Yeah. And he can play with that kind of pace with a guy that people really, really, really like. So
PK too. Really good PKer. So there's so much he brings to the table.
And he can play PK and PP. He can play
up and down the lineup.
He eats a lot of minutes. So he's a guy that's incredibly attractive. Another guy they have locked up for another year. And I don't think he's cheap. And that's one that I think Bill would rather keep. But if there's the right deal, I think the door is open, and I hope I don't see either one of those two guys go because I think they're important for this franchise. But if you can move up the ladder and somehow get a second round pick, gosh, it's hard to say no.
Yeah, he's such a versatile player, and it's funny because he was kind of mentioned in the same conversation as the Colorado Avalanche and helping provide them center depth. Well, now with the move for Casey Mittelstadt, it just makes you wonder, would that even be someone they would consider now, or are they all set there?
He's not even a natural center, right? Yeah. So, you could put him on the wing still, but true. Yeah, I do wonder, is Colorado done adding at forward? Is Edmonton done now with Adam Henrique? Are some teams out of the market for a forward? I agree with both of you guys. I think this is a long shot that this happens because I don't think that they're going to get the price that they're asking. And I think they're okay with that. If Alex Kerfoot is back on this team next year, well, he's then on an expiring contract, as is Nick Bjugstad. Then you turn around next year at the deadline, and these are probably guys that are on the move.
Well, let's talk about some other guys who are potentially long shots. And our friend Pete Blackburn over at What Chaos tweeted this earlier. He said, it's insane we haven't seen a goalie trade yet. I feel like we've been waiting for a goalie trade for 4 months. And it's so true. It really feels like we're waiting for that first domino to fall. And that leads us to the question, Karel Vejmelka.
Yeah, I can't help wondering with the goalie thing, Petey, if it's about risk. How are you ever certain when you're bringing in a goalie to adapt to a new system that you're going to upgrade? And when you're looking at a guy like Karel Vejmelka, does he really convince you, we need to go get this guy instead of going to battle with the guys we've got? We've talked about the teams that we're really questioning their goaltending going into the playoffs. Teams like Colorado, teams like Edmonton, teams like Carolina and Toronto. But when you look at Karel Vejmelka, you say, there's our answer. We can go solve that problem by going getting Karel Vejmelka.
Yeah, I think what the biggest problem here with goaltenders is I think when teams are that desperate to get a goalie, and there are some out there right now that really feel like they need a goaltending improvement, it's really hard to risk any assets on a guy that's not battle tested, not just in the league, but in the playoffs. Like Karel Vejmelka, nowhere near the playoffs and that kind of intensity and pressure. So for somebody to give up assets for a player like Karel Vejmelka would be very surprising for me. You have to be in a really tough situation to go for a player that's never played an important high stress playoff game in the National Hockey League. But the one thing with Karel, and I look at his career numbers in the National Hockey, they're not impressive. His numbers aren't great. He's a guy that hasn't showed the consistency. When he's good, he's extremely good. And we've seen what he's done there. This is one of those situations, Craig, that we talked about earlier, where there's a coaching staff there somewhere that's going, that's the guy, he can play in our system. Will protect the Coyotes. His numbers are so bad because the Coyotes don't defend well. They don't have a very strong defensive core. They give up too many penalties. But in our system where we're protecting the net front, we don't give up second chances. He could play here. Or
Aiden
there's
Hill.
A goalie. Yep,
Aiden Hill's an example. Yeah,
there's a goalie coach in this league right now saying, I can make this guy work in our system. I guarantee it. So I don't think it's likely. I really don't. I'm curious to see and that's why players like Marc-Andre Fleury keep getting traded, because he's been there. And I know he's not moving on from Minnesota, but that's why you see players like that have been there before getting that opportunity before a player like Karel Vejmelka. I would be surprised if Karel Vejmelka gets traded.
If Veggie gets traded, whoever he gets traded to, put money on them to win the Stanley Cup.
Great.
Yeah.
Because
seriously,
boy howdy, do the Coyotes goalies just leave
the
here.
last 2 won cups. So
yeah. The last thing to think about with this too is like who replaces Vejmelka on this roster. They're not going to call up Matt Villalta again. So it probably becomes a situation you're pushing Anson Thornton all the way to the NHL as a backup. Yeah, I mean
that's the main reason I don't see Veggie going almost more than anything else is the lack of goaltender depth.
Yeah, at least at this level, right? They've got a bunch of prospects, but none of them are ready for the pro level.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple other guys. Michael Carcone. He's a name that we've kind of heard tossed around a little bit. He obviously had a stellar first half of the season. His shooting percentage was ridiculous. He was leading the team in goals at one point. Obviously, it's been a little bit more of a disappointing second half. A lot of, he's been healthy scratched a bunch. But do you think Michael Carcone is a piece that can be moved, or is he kind of more a part of this team going forward?
I don't know. I don't know how teams view him. Like you look at the 14 goals in the first 26 games and say, whoa. But then you look at the shooting percentage, like you said, I think it was like up above 36 at some point, which is like 3 times what a shooting percentage is going to be. There's a handful of guys that'll shoot maybe 20% in a season, but 36% is outrageous. You knew that wasn't going to last. He's only had 3 goals since, but he's found the net a couple times recently. Do you think, secondary scoring, we could use a guy like that with speed and some skill? I don't know. I really don't know what the market looks like for a Michael Carcone. I doubt it's a significant prospect or pick, but I guess you weigh what it means to keep him at a very cost control price versus getting something that might be somewhat intriguing to you to add to your system. I don't know.
Yeah, this one's funny to me because I think one of the things with Michael Carcone is he gets that recency bias from people that watch him. Like, I really like Michael Carcone. I think he's got high skill. I think he gets the net. I think he can provide secondary offense. But he's a guy who's in and out of the lineup. And when we talk about Michael Carcone here, we like him because we see him all the time. But when you go across the league, teams have players like Michael Carcone. They have that guy that's in the lineup that's got a little spark. And guess what? He's a couple of years younger than Michael Carcone. So I think I might overvalue Michael Carcone. And I talked to some people about, hey, do you think he's on the move? Do you think he can find a spot in it? And I think the response was maybe not. Maybe not. There's teams that like him. There's people that like Michael Carcone, but he's not that guy that you're going to see at the trade deadline going moving the needle too much.
Right.
I don't think he's going to move from Arizona, and I think that's a good thing for both him and this team. I like him for secondary scoring for this team. I think he's in a good spot. He's a good fit here in Arizona.
It's interesting that in a recent column, Elliot Friedman mentioned him by name. Said keep an eye on Michael Carcone. Elliot obviously talks to a lot of executives.
And you know who liked him was Shane Doan. Like Shane Doan really liked Michael Carcone, and I think it's his familiarity with this organization.
Well, it's funny because their game doesn't remind me of each other, but their stories and their size do. Michael Bunting came up through the system, paid his dues in the AHL, had really strong seasons there, comes up, makes the league, goes to Toronto. Carcone, similar story. Not saying they're similar players, but similar vibes. And another guy that was mentioned also, I think, on 32 Thoughts this week for the Coyotes was, and we'll talk more about the tough guys later, but Liam O'Brien for the Metro division seems to be strapping up with these tough guys. But I know PD has more on that later, but I just thought that was interesting, a name that was thrown out there that I hadn't heard. But
if teams are trading for effing tough guy at this trade deadline, it's 2023 for Christ's sake. 2024. It's 2024. We're even past 2023, and we're looking for tough guys for real. Like really.
All right, last guy, and we've kind of talked about him a little bit already, but we'll say it officially and formally on this show. Nick Schmaltz. This is a name that has been in the discussion. It feels like for a while. Obviously, we knew that was a concern to Clayton Keller in the past. Nick Schmaltz, is he or is he not a trade piece for the Coyotes?
I don't think he is. I don't think he's going anywhere. If they do something, they may explore it in the summer where there are more options, but I'm not even saying it's going to happen then. honestly, and I said this in the story that I wrote recently, the Coyotes like Nick Schmaltz analytics. They just know, because of the situation this entire franchise is in right now, this roster is in. He's playing up a line. He doesn't belong on a top line. He's a second line guy. And there's some belief, like if he were slotted correctly, this guy would light it up with better matchups. And he's incredibly skilled. So I don't get the sense that Nick Schmaltz is going anywhere.
Yeah, the other concern too is he's got another year left. He's got a contract that'll be tough for some teams to fit in to a cap issue, and then they're going to ask the Coyotes to retain salary. And I don't think the Coyotes look.
There's a lot of money on the back end.
Yeah, so I that would really surprise me to see that. Now, on the other side of it, would teams like to have Nick Schmaltz in their lineup? Absolutely. I think he's a guy. There are plenty of teams right now that are struggling for offense, that are fighting for a playoff spot, that could see Nick Schmaltz adding to that, not secondary, primary scoring on their team. I just don't think there are teams that are going to be able to figure out a way to make it fit salary-wise and have the Coyotes take any of that money. So I think Nick Schmaltz continues to be a Coyote now. A year from now?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily see Schmaltz being one of those guys who's part of the 5-year down the road.
No, I don't see him coming out of the rebuild as a part of this team. I don't. Yeah, but I got questions about a lot of guys, whether they'll be part of a team when it comes out of rebuild, but that's for another day.
But he might be here at the end of the week. So there you go. Speaking of the end of the week, this weekend, I hope everyone got their tickets because NASCAR is coming to the Phoenix Raceway March 8th through 10th. Petey's been hyping it up all month long.
Yeah, can you do your sound effects? Thank you.
Wow, that was excellent. If you've never been to a NASCAR event, which I haven't, and if the Coyotes were not playing Sunday, I would totally go. There's a huge group of people from our office going. Everyone's so excited. It's going to be a blast. NASCAR at Phoenix Raceway this weekend. You can get your tickets today to the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. Again, that's March 8th through 10th, and it promises a weekend of good vibes for the whole family. The weather is perfect in Arizona right now. What better thing to do? We're so lucky that we get events like this here in the Valley. Get your reserved grandstand tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
And then go and play Arizona's Lottery's new ticket promotion called Arizona Adventure. There are 3 ways to play. First, get the Arizona Adventure Scratcher tickets featuring 3 iconic landscapes. Then second, you can walk and talk because I couldn't walk and talk. And you can check in at geolocated adventures at 10 destinations across the state of Arizona from Flagstaff to Yuma. Visit arizadventure.com for details and directions, and then check in at the destination coordinates on the website. The Arizona Lottery is not just about playing games and winning prizes. It is also about giving back to the state and its communities. Visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes.
Well, Petey thought it was a year that it wasn't, and Craig explored years from the past in his article today at gophnx.com. Some of the most notable Coyotes trade deadline deals of the past 27 years. And Petey, you were around for a lot of those, so I know you wanted to talk about
for all of them.
Yeah,
I think I was around for all of these particular ones. Yeah, and some are tougher than others. What's that?
Anything jump out at you from that list?
You know, it's interesting that some, when you go through the memory banks, you go, gosh, there's ones that turned out so well that you were surprised that turned out well. And I'll throw some names out and Crick and when Wojtek Wolski got traded, like Wojtek Wolski, he's a guy that like most people are go, who? But when Wojtek Wolski came in to the Coyotes, it was just almost like a perfect storm of trade deadlines. It's one of the busiest trade deadlines I can remember was the season that he came in, because also one of Craig's favorite guys, Lee Stepniak, came in on that same trade deadline. It was just a spark. It was just a burst of new energy. And all of a sudden, the guys that they brought in, Wojtek Wolski and Lee Stepniak, took off.
They lit it up.
It propelled this team in a different direction. It was so fun to watch, and they both caught fire, and they became kind of the hot topic around the league. So those ones surprised me because they were nice players. Like Wojtek Wolski was a nice player, and so was Lee. I really like Lee Stepniak, but that particular trade deadline, it just sparked something special in those players. But then you look at some of them that depressed the hell out of you. And the Danny Briere one is probably the most heart-wrenching. And you watch Danny Briere leave, and you knew like he was just on the verge of something special. And you bring in Chris Gratton and buddy, Chris Gratton. By the time Chris Gratton came here, Chris Gratton was no longer Chris Gratton, and it was just unfortunate that trade, you traded away your future for a guy that really, really didn't even have it in the present. That one of all of them was the most difficult, and there's some that just didn't feel like anything. Nikolai Habibulin wasn't playing. He wasn't a guy that was a part of anything. He was disgruntled, so you made a move and got assets.
And then he goes and wins a cup.
It's so sad on how many players that had to leave. And that's the part that probably struck me. We talked about Keith Tkachuk, Keith Yandel, and how many guys had to leave because of financial situations here with the franchise. And that's what was the most difficult. And, it's hard when you're selling. It's hard when you're selling and guys just can't fit in here. And hey, the Keith Tkachuk trade, there were some nice players. Handzus and Nagy came back, and that was a good trade. I think they were good
Nagy. If Vladislav Nagy had stayed healthy, I think this town would have a much greater appreciation
I agree.
for him as a player.
He was one of my favorite players here, and honestly, he did things that were amazing. His grit and determination to get to the net and to provide offense were great. But again, he's no Keith Tkachuk.
No.
And so I think the trade deadline for me has always been so difficult because you lose teammates, you lose friends, and it is such a quick process. And take you inside the room, when a guy gets traded, like, he's gone. Like, it's not just, he's going to hang out in the lounge, we're going to watch a movie and have dinner. No, you get that phone call, you're going to the equipment room, you're getting your sticks, your skates, your bag, and you're gone. Like, it's minutes. And they're out the door, and you might get a handshake or a hug in the hallway. And there's some difficult moments when those guys leave. And I don't think people realize how quickly that process occurs when a guy's literally on a plane going to another city to new teammates and going to stay in a hotel for the next 2 months. It's odd. It's so odd to see those guys. The ones that are most best prepared for it are guys that have A, been through it before, or B, they know someone on the team that they're going to go get traded to. I think that makes it easier. I think there's guys that go in with their eyes wide open going, I'm in one here.
I have such memories of some of these trades of literally there where, like, I remember being in the hotel room in Denver the hotel in Denver when Mikhail Bakhter got traded, and he came down and we talked for a long time in the lobby. I remember being outside of the bus when Danny Briere got traded, and he was literally crying. Tears were streaming down his face. There's some crazy memories. I want to give you, sorry, Petey, but a really bad memory. It's March 4th, 2014. The Coyotes are in 9th place in the Western Conference, 1 point off the playoff pace. It's the trade deadline. And who's incoming? Martin Erat. What memories do you have of the 14th?
Talk about a guy that didn't fit. And Martin Erat. And it's funny because I didn't necessarily hate him in Nashville. But I didn't like him here. This is the guy that he did not fit at all, didn't provide anything at all. And it's more, and I'm sure Martin's listening to the show right now. Hell, he didn't listen when we were in the same goddamn room. Why would he listen now? He's a guy that didn't want to be here. He had no interest in playoff push. Hell no. He didn't have that. He didn't want it. He was like, well, when can I go home? When can I book my flight? It was just it was a bad trade. It was a bad fit for the wrong player at the wrong time. And there's another player that this team acquired was Robert Reichel. And it was another guy that he didn't want to play. And that was back in the late 90s where you go, oh God, he might give us a little boost. No, dude, when's my flight? When is the season over and I can go home? Yeah. And when you get a guy that doesn't want to help push the bus along, you got no chance. And I'm sorry, I didn't see that from Martin Erat when he came to the Coyotes.
Yeah, and it was tough because, you're coming out, now you're 2 years removed from the Western Conference final run, and Tip's still trying to drag this talent deficient roster along and get it into playoffs. They had just missed the season before. They were close, and then your GM brings in Martin Erat. This to me, like, I remember it, and it's not like Tip hit it. It just felt like the end of the relationship with Donnie for a long time, and I'm sure they both moved past it now, but yeah, their relationship soured, and then that next season, that 14-15 season that's bad. One of the worst rosters I've ever seen.
One of the worst ever.
Yeah.
This team really took a turn. So that was the beginning of the end, I think.
Yep.
Well,
fun trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm going to tee Petey up for this next one because we had a comment in our chat actually a few minutes ago when we were talking about the tough guys, and he said, screw it, give up a third for Rempe. I'm on the hype train all the way. Petey, are you on the hype train?
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Matt Rempe. Matt Rempe right now is taking the NHL by storm right now. There is no doubt about it, right? Like it's the Empire State Building, it's the Broadway Bully,
Ugh.
like whatever you want to call him, he is like the Madison Square Giant, the MSG. I get it. He's 6'8" and he's an interesting player. He's a kid. He's literally a kid. We're getting ready for playoffs, and I really thought this league had moved past the goon. I really did. I thought we were past the guy that just fought to fight. I thought we had moved past that. And I'll give you an example. In 2010, 2011, you know how many fighting majors there were? 645 in 2010. You know how many were projected for this year if it continues on the same pace? 280. So less than half the fights than a decade ago. It's just not part of the game. You know why? Because the game's too fast. The game's too fast. And those spots on the bottom of the roster, those guys can play. They can provide offense, and you need secondary offense because the top guys make so much money. You better have somebody else that can help provide points to this roster. And those guys that do nothing, meaning they don't provide secondary scoring, they don't provide offense, you cannot have them on your roster anymore. And I don't think there are many left in the league. All of them that are still in the league could not be happier that Matt Rempe is here. They are jumping up and down for joy. They're calling every reporter they know to say, hey, I'm relevant again. I matter. I'm relevant. See, fighting isn't dead. Just because some people in New York love to watch a 6'8", 21-year-old fight and get 2 black eyes. You know what his ice time is? Matt Rempe. He's been in 8 games. He's had 4 fights, and his average ice time is 5 minutes and 4 seconds. He's got 1 goal that hit him in the shin pad from a shot from the point that he didn't even know hit him. And that's true because in the postgame interview, he said, I don't know it hit me. You have to be able to play. And I want to talk about relevant fighters, Ryan Reeves and Matt Martin. Matt Martin is one of the guys that had fought him. Do you know how many fights Martin has all year? All year. He's got 3. 3 fights the entire hockey season. How about Ryan Reeves? You know how many fights he's got, including the Rempe fight? 4. For the entire season. So if you're telling me that the 2 tough guys in this league that have challenged Matt Rempe are so important and so relevant to protect your teams, and combined they have 7 fights in over 120 games, does that matter? Well, but a deeper issue. Matt Martin, you know how many his points he's got? 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. Plays 9 minutes a game. Ryan Reeves, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points, and 8 minutes of ice time. Are those guys that are going to be key pieces for the playoff runs for the New York Rangers? And I know Matt Martin might not be the playoffs. Are those guys relevant? Do they matter? The answer is no. They don't. And this sudden surge of excitement over fighting, then go watch an MMA fight. Go do that. Because you want to know the fighters I like in the National Hockey League? I cannot stand it. Anybody that knows me, I don't like the 2 guys that meet. Matt Rempe's not fighting because he's protecting a goddamn teammate. Game hasn't even started on his fights. He hasn't had a shift yet, and he's fighting. He's not protecting his teammate. It's some other tough guy trying to show how tough he is and dropping his gloves. Now, if you want to see a fighter in this league, you know how many fights Brady Tkachuk has? He's got more than Reeves, and he's got more than Matt Martin. You know what else Brady Tkachuk has? He's got 26 goals and 50 points. And he plays 18 minutes and 40 seconds a night, and he protects his teammates. That's the guy I want fighting for me. Trent Frederick in Boston, he's got 16 goals, 13 minutes, and he's got more fights than Reeves and Martin. Marcus Foligno in Minnesota, 9 goals, 20 points, 14.35 a night, 6 fights. All of those guys have more. How about Jack McBain? I don't know he's not that same weight class. He's got 6 goals, 17 points, plays 12 and a half minutes a game, and kills penalties. Who do you want on your roster? Right. I get so excited about these guys that are playing 5 minutes a game. When the playoff whistle sounds, and it's coming in a few weeks, do you think these guys are in the lineup and relevant? And right now there are teams thinking, God, I need to have one because they've got one. Are you out of your mind? Like, let's not revert back to what we did 10 years ago. Let's get past it. I think the Matt Rempe hype is going to be over because we, honest to God, don't know if the kid can play. We've never seen him play. We have no idea if he can play. I don't know if he can even skate. So hopefully the league moves past where they're at with this current revival of the tough guy, because I don't think that that's what this league needs to do. Now, I'm not saying take away fighting. You need fighting in hockey. You have to protect your teammates. You have to, their sticks get up way too high, and there's too many small skilled players in this league that you need to protect, and it is a self-protecting league, but you fight to protect your teammates. You don't fight for the entertainment value at center ice.
Yeah, and listen, if these guys end up in a playoff game, if they end up on a playoff roster, you know what you do if you're the opposition? You expose them. You expose them because they can't play.
You let them play. That was always the mantra when you played against guys, and there were a lot more guys like this in the league prior to this. Every team had one. And you know what you said going into a game? Leave them alone. Just leave them alone. because he's not going to score. He's not going to factor in the plus minus this game. Leave him alone. Don't engage. Don't engage with that player. I'm sorry, and I know there's so many people that really enjoy the fighting aspect of this game, and they love the little surge that's going around the league right now. I'm not one of those guys, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I just think this game is about skill and speed, and I don't mind the physicality. I don't mind a hard hitting physical game. I don't want to see fighting for the sake of fighting. I just don't get it. Fight to protect your teammates, fight to protect your goaltender, fight because they're picking on your skilled player. I don't have a problem with that. But when you're a minute into a game and you're just fighting a guy because he's the biggest guy on the prison block, it doesn't make sense to me.
Bryant in the chat said it's hockey's version of Linsanity. And that's really what it feels like. Oh.
All right, Petey, we're going to go to our happy place now. Okay?
Okay.
Bring your mic closer to your mouth.
I want you to meditate with me now, Petey. Go to your happy place. Bring the levels down. But that was a hell of a rant, I got to say. That was a hell of a rant. We're going to clip the entire damn thing.
What is happening? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, can I tell one more story?
Yes.
And this is a happy one, so we can end on a happy note on trade deadline time. I've been debating this whole show in the back of my mind if I'm going to out this staff member, and I've decided I am not going to name him by name. But this is a true story that happened in the Arizona Coyotes locker room.
Uh-oh.
I will vouch for it, and I have many people that were there and witnessed it. A member of this staff was in his early 20s, one of his first jobs, and is absolutely his first job in the NHL. First job in the NHL, and he was part of the medical side of the field. And trade deadline was fast approaching. It was that morning, and we decided it'd be a good time to pick on this guy. And we said, "Hey, did you get a no trade clause in your contract?" And he said, "What? What are you talking about?" And as a group, we said, "No, seriously, did you not get a no trade? It's just pretty standard." I didn't get that. And we said, "Oh shit. Like, really? You didn't?" And the ability for this young man to be swayed that, oh my God, because we had maybe coached a few of the coaches and talked to a few of the players as they went in to see this gentleman. "Hey, Tommy, I heard you don't have trade." I actually throw out his name. I heard you don't have a no trade in your contract. And this young man for the entire day was panicking that he was going to get traded for the day and leaving.
Too.
I did out him accidentally. Sorry, but for the entire day, and it is so bad. And because we did bring a lot of people into that, and we might have even had some people from the management office push that story along. But it was, and I felt so bad in retrospect, but it is a really good story that this staff member thought the entire day that there was a possibility they may end the day going to another city. And we're like, yeah, it happens. Like, if that player, and they just need to make the money work, and I'm serious, it happens. And the poor kid.
That's
So
hilarious.
that was a fun story, and those little things from inside the locker room, we went on that all day long, and everybody got involved, and we all had a good laugh at his expense. So I'm really sorry to this young man who I really like and admire to this day.
PD,
Thank you for letting me share.
You've been traded to DNVR for Eric Lacroix.
Exactly.
We're trading analysts.
Exactly.
Oh man, crazy. I always think about that. Like, imagine you just get a phone call, like, "Craig, you're traded to PHOI for Charlie."
Can you imagine?
No.
Like,
And
what?
people say, well, they make
I'm not
millions.
reporting. I'm not reporting.
They make millions. So what? But who cares if they make
It's a
millions? They
life.
still have a house and kids in school.
I think about the families all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
His wife's having a baby, for God's sake. Boogie.
I mean, that's all the reason I need to just root for
I know.
Nick Bjugstad to stay put.
100% agree. Well, one of the great perks, if anybody does end up getting traded to Arizona, which is unlikely considering they're probably looking for picks, but one of the perks of Arizona is that we have some burros all over the valley. Favorite of Danielle, a favorite of...
Can I tell this story?
Yes.
About some burros?
Yes.
Can I tell you what my family did to me last night on Taco Tuesday while I was working to provide for my family, to provide for their ability to buy some burros? What did they do? They had some burros without me.
No
And
way.
when I got home, they gleefully told me, "We didn't get anything for you." That's what happened
savage.
to me. It was
When you get
savage.
home from a game and you
Yeah,
work the
come
game
home
last
from
night,
a game,
you get
it's
home
been a
late
long
and you're
day.
hungry.
They
you don't
all
wanna
ate some burros, and nope, there's not even a crumb left for me.
No
Wow.
mini chimneys?
No mini
Wow.
chimneys. That's what I wanted. You didn't get a bag of mini chimneys for me?
Wow.
Seriously?
That's
Okay.
cruel.
Calling out my family right now.
Wow.
You can stay at my house this weekend if you want.
Thanks, buddy. Might need it.
Well, Sombrros is offering PHNX listeners 20% off their orders for the entire month of March. I hope your family at least saved the 20%. 20% off your order of up to $100 when you use code PHNX at checkout of the whole month of March. What a deal. Available in restaurant, drive-thru, and when you order online. Not available on third-party delivery. Visit somburros.com.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about some of these stories. I just think I can't believe I'm sitting here in the back of my mind going, I just ranted about Ryan Reeves and Matt Martin. I hope I'm not leaving the Phoenix metro area anytime soon right now. I may need a little safety. Anyway, and I also need some Four Peaks because Four Peaks is the official beer of PHNX. Sports aren't the same without a Four Peaks in your hand. We already talked about the gathering happening at the end of this month. I hope you join us at Four Peaks because it is an amazing place to get all of their great beers on tap. And plus, it's party time in Arizona. March Madness is coming, and the most important party of the season is coming. It's Craig's St. Patrick's Day party, and there will be plenty of Four Peaks on hand.
Oh, yeah.
Because you need plenty of different brews to satisfy all of the varied palates at PHNX. Yeah, don't miss that takeover event coming in the month. Make sure you check out gophnx.com/events to get info on that Four Peaks takeover, and visit fourpeaks.com/locator to find all of your favorite beers and events. Check out at Four Peaks Brew and at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest of Arizona's hometown brewery. You must be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and please enjoy responsibly.
I feel like we need to record a video for Four Peaks that night.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I also have a question about Four Peaks, just protocol here. As a beat writer covering the trade deadline with potential news coming at any moment, am I allowed to drink Four Peaks tonight?
Yes.
Can I go home and have a beer?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if the Coyotes make a move tonight, your reporting will be at its best.
Interesting.
What?
Yeah.
What trade deadline? What day? I didn't know what date it is. Wednesday.
I know, but it could happen today. That's the thing. That's the part of being a beat writer. Like, until the deadline passes, like, oh, it could happen right now. Like, a bunch of trades happen today. I have no idea when it's going down.
Yeah.
I think you can, as long as you're drinking responsibly.
As they say at the NASCAR race, green, 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 green. That light is green, Craig. You're good to go, buddy.
Oh, boy.
I'll be drinking some Four Peaks tonight for sure.
I want to give a shout out to our friends, What Chaos. If you don't know about What Chaos, they're our All-City hockey show. Sean DePaz, former producer, is their producer, and he texted me during the show, and he said, I'm going to be miserable because here's what happened. What Chaos was trying to hit 4,000 YouTube subscribers, and if they did that, they were going to do a 24-hour trade deadline stream, and guess what happened? They did it. So the What Chaos trade deadline 24-hour show begins tomorrow, Thursday, at 5:30 Eastern, so 3:30 our time.
I like to think we had a hand in creating that misery.
And goes until 5:30 Eastern Friday, so 3:30 on Friday. So if you want to help support those guys, send them super chats, pop in the chat, especially because we're here in the West, so we'll be up late for them when it's, the very early morning.
God, send them coffee.
This is one of those ideas.
The What Chaos show YouTube.
So good. In the meeting room, this sounds like a great idea. Oh, you know what we'll do? We'll stay up for 24 hours. This is brilliant. But
Sean said none of us thought it was gonna happen. We added almost 1,000 subscribers in a week.
Oh my god! This is just I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to tune in because the show is like the real show. Not that it's not a real show, but like TSN on terrestrial television is going to have a 5-hour show, and they will have nothing to talk about.
So what are the hours again?
So it's 5:30 Eastern
p.m.
tomorrow
until
5:30 on Friday.
Okay.
So 3:30 to 3:30 Arizona time.
Yeah, we should hop on for like the last 3 hours of it just to harass them.
What are they going to talk about?
Bleary-eyed.
Well, I was thinking we can call them
incoherent.
after our post-game show tomorrow night because it'll be like 11 p.m. here. It'll be 1 a.m. there. Nobody on the East is going to be awake to talk to them. We will be.
Hey, DP, we're also going to be watching to make sure that you stay on for the full 24.
Yeah.
No skimping minutes here, buddy. 24 hours.
Like we gave Totri a hard time about the Waffle House, but at least there was food in the bathroom. Like I don't know what you're gonna do. Like this is horrible. Like we're gonna recap the Adam Henrique trade again. It's 3:04 a.m. Like there's nothing going on.
Sean just texted our old production group chat and said it was nice knowing you all. Tomorrow is gonna be the death of me.
And I think it was DJ Bean's idea. I really do. Like that's got DJ
brought up
Bean
on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And he thought that
I think I might have suggested it. Sorry.
Let's do it. Let's
Godspeed.
Can we call them tomorrow after the show?
We're definitely going to jump in. I'm sure they're going to need content.
Yeah.
So all I need is I don't know, whatever the links are. We don't want to give out their links away, but if they give us a link, can I jump on? Like Craig and I are up at 5 a.m. We can do like the early morning guest on Friday.
There you go.
There you go.
If I can't sleep, I'll come join in. Yeah, make sure we get a link.
You're awake at 3 a.m. Oh, it's gonna be good. Anyway, just wanted to give them a shout. Any final thoughts on the trade deadline as it relates to the Coyotes?
Let's get her done. Let's get her done.
Almost there.
Make those deals early. That's fine with me.
And then everybody can, honestly, for me, I just want everybody to imagine just waking up and checking your phone every so often, thinking, am I getting a call? I just think everyone will feel a lot more relaxed when this is done, and that's for the players. I mean, so
no doubt.
We will be live, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow night in terms of trade-related reasons, scratches. Stay tuned. We'll report those tomorrow. And then Friday, we are going to do a trade deadline show just after the trade deadline to break down whatever it is that happens. And we will also have our post-game show that night with a roster that could look slightly different. So lots coming up this week. Make sure you're subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel so you don't miss when we go live and you don't miss all the extra content as well. We might be catching up with some old friends tomorrow. Speaking of trades and trade deadline,
yes, indeed.
Stay tuned for that, and make sure, you subscribe to PHNX Coyotes wherever you get your podcasts as well, so you don't miss our audio-only episodes. Or if you prefer to listen rather than watch on YouTube, you can do that wherever you get your podcasts. So that's it from us. Everybody, hit the thumbs up on this video before you head out. Follow us on Twitter. At Leah Merrill, at Craig S. Morgan, at S. Peters Hockey, at Abrica Danielle, and follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody, and we will see you all tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.